What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are my usual suspects here. I've got Callum Wiggins.
On this pod, I speak clearly.
And Robert DeFelice.
And my scores will come to light.
I'm coming home. Wait, that didn't really go.
No, what are you doing?
Remember how that was supposed to be his theme for like a little bit?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
When he came back.
For like 3 weeks, everybody thought that was his new theme or whatever. Who is he? Well, that's our target for this edition. We are doing Superstar Scores Edge, and this is one of the things that has been sponsored by Marco. Thank you, Marco, for your donation. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, was sponsored and all that other stuff. We have our Patreon for Smark Out Moment. We also have one for Fanboys Anonymous if you are into the movie and TV and comic book and video game side of things. But the Patreon has the option of pick your poison. And for that, if you donate to that tier, then you can request some kind of a special feature or gimmick or a particular type of podcast or anything like that. And as long as it's within reason and it's not like, for my special feature, it is a tournament of the best 300 matches of all time that you pick, that kind of stuff's crazy. But like in this instance, Marco had tossed out the idea of Superstar Scores Edge, which we had not gotten around to doing. And since Edge is in that sort of rumor mill of possibly coming back, it's a good time to look back on his career, reflect on the good and the bad, and give him his scores. And if you don't know what Superstar Scores Edge is all about, it's when we go back in time and we talk about 2001. No, just kidding. Obviously, Superstar Scores is where we take a superstar and we score them. It is on 5 separate umbrella categories: ring skills, mic skills, appearance, behavior, and crowd reaction. And within them are 2 separate categories that are like subsections of those. We rank them on a 0 to 10 scale because we go from a 0 to 100 goal, of course, 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. And we essentially just kind of break down the good and the bad of their careers. So we invite you to do the same thing in the comments below. Make sure you drop a comment on YouTube and tell us your scores and your thoughts on our reflection on how we rated Edge here. Rated R, rated Edge. But the whole setup with that, of course, is if you are on YouTube, because that's where you can leave your comments. So if you're on the audio-only platforms like iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and Google Play and TuneIn and Anchor and whatnot, then hop on over to YouTube, ring that little bell for the notifications, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already, and drop a comment below. We're going to get this puppy started, and we're going to go with the ring skills. Now, those 2 categories are athleticism and psychology. Athleticism is pretty standard. I mean, how athletic are they? Do they botch often? What are their moves like? Their signature maneuvers, that kind of stuff. And psychology is their storytelling within the ring, whether they sell their injuries, can they make a large match interesting, or long match, I should say, not a large one. Do they get boring when they wrestle? Or, one-note shows, that kind of thing. So I gave him a 7 for athleticism and a 9 for psychology. I find it very difficult to give anybody a 10 for almost anything, and if you go back on previous Superstar scores, you'll see that an 8 is a lot of the times the highest that I give people anything, so 9's quite a bit for psychology for me, but I think that's Edge's strong point for wrestling. It's never quite 100% been his athleticism, but he is still athletic. I mean, he's had plenty of matches where he's, flipping around and stuff. Just like, he's not some cruiserweight. So those are the guys I give the 10s and stuff to. Edge, I think a solid 7, still on the positive side of things. But with anything, I've got a chance to have my mind swayed. So what do you guys have for athleticism and psychology?
Athleticism, I gave him an 8. I think you can argue that by his peak, he wasn't a cruiserweight, but he certainly started out that way. I think he ushered in that era of work rate, the Hardys, Edge and Christian matches, ushered in that era. He solidified it through the time with the SmackDown 6. So I think he's really high up there, especially for his era.
I want my athleticism one before you go psychology.
Oh, right. I for psychology, I'm with Tony. I gave him a 9. He was master manipulator, the ultimate opportunist. He had his character down packed. Once he got it there with the radar superstar and just being a sneaky, devilish character, he played it to a T.
So I have him as a 7 for athleticism. I feel like early on in Edge's career, he was a bit, well, he was green, but everyone obviously starts out somewhere, but he was green on TV for a long time, and so there was no real performance center for him to work at or anything like that. So we got to see him develop, and he wasn't as strong as he would be towards the end of his career. He was a very capable hand in the ring. But Edge was always struck me as somebody who would like be able to have a really, really great match with a really, really great opponent, but he wouldn't be able to elevate somebody up to that next level himself.
Yeah.
Because I kind of see like his best matches are against Eddie Guerrero, who was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Shawn Michaels, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's had great matches with like Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit in those tag team matches. They were two of the greatest wrestlers of all time. The only person that I really say that Edge has had great matches with that is arguably not on his level in terms of athleticism is John Cena. And realistically, that's only that one TLC match because the rest of it and that Last Man Standing match because they have a lot of gimmicks attached to them. That makes that I guess that like helped out. But I would say a 7 is good for Edge. It's kind of like if Edge was to come back, I would say yeah, I'll put him in a match with AJ Styles. I'll put him in a match with Samoa Joe. Miz, nah, don't really want to see that type of thing.
I would also throw Batista in that list as far as guys he helped get a better match out of than they were capable of doing themselves.
Potentially, I mean, none of the matches with Batista kind of stand out to me. That's probably where I stand with it. Like when I think of Edge's matches, I think like the Guerrero match, the one that instantly comes to mind. Matches with Mysterio and stuff like that come to mind. Psychology, I joined you guys and given him a 9. I do like to just see his character work in the ring. Just the sit down in the corner going for the spear is one of the greatest like visuals before a move that you can possibly have. It's like Randy Orton's stomp before the RKO and stuff like that. And I think he sells really well. The match with Mick Foley really kind of sticks in my mind as like Edge is selling just, and maybe that's just because he was in real pain and like bleeding all over the place. But whichever way, he looks like he was in agony the entire match, and that's really good. So I think he's worthy of a 9 for psychology.
Yeah, I mean, his strength is definitely in being a performer as far as like the storytelling side of things, rather than actually like just, okay, I'm going to do my spear because you think that the spear is going to hurt you. It's more so him selling, I'm going to do the spear and it's going to hurt you. I think that's a good distinction of that. So what we got, just a recap of that. We all had 9s for psychology.
All had 9s for psychology.
We had a 7 and 8 and a 7, I think, for athleticism.
Yeah,
so we're all a good start. Kind of on the same page right now already. Let's go over to mic skills. Charisma and character make up that. Charisma is more so just the actual act of talking. You know, do they go through the whole thing without stuttering? Are they repetitive? Do they keep things fresh? And the character is their actual gimmick, and whether or not they can pull off being a heel and a face, or whichever one they do, if they do that really well. So, you know, we gotten really high marks for people like Rowdy Roddy Piper in the past and Chris Jericho. And we've gotten lower marks with people like Steve Blackman and,
Buff Bagwell.
You know, Buff Bagwell. Yeah, so it kind of depends on where that goes. Even somebody like a Brock Lesnar, we haven't gotten, you know, crazy amounts of charisma on the mic because he's not much of a talker. He has a talker for him. But Edge is definitely a talker. And I currently have him at a 9 for charisma and an 8 for character. But I might swap them.
I have him at a 9 for charisma and an 8 for character as well.
I have him at 8 for both of them.
Damn it, Cal.
You're throwing us off a little bit. No. They're still kind of on the same kind of page here, because I think that we're all in agreement. He is a great character, especially for an era where he doesn't have like a character. Like he's not, the trash man and he does trash puns and stuff. Like he's just kind of a dickweed in a couple
Well,
different ways. And he's gone from being like the funny dickweed to the manipulative dickweed and, like that kind of thing.
Well, I'd say he has multiple strong characters. I mean, he has the Brood character, which is obviously was a bit more just standoffish.
The weird goth loner in New York City.
I still don't quite get what that was all about.
I really didn't. Yeah, I really didn't get that one. That's kind of what's knocked me down for the character for him, because he has the Brood, which is great, and he has his original tag team with Edge and Christian, which is great. It's like a douchebag heel, and he's even more of a douchebag as the Rated R Superstar. That's his best character. I think most people would agree. But he has this like the loner emo thing at the start of his career. He then has a period of between like a babyface run of 2001 to 2003, 4-ish.
Where
Obviously,
he's got nothing.
Yeah, well, obviously he's injured for part of it, but he's just like generic babyface Edge, and he really doesn't have any edge to him. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
And then there's Rated R Superstar Edge in the PG era, which doesn't really work because if you're the Rated R Superstar and you're trying to, but can't say ass or anything on TV or something like that, it doesn't really fit the characters that well.
And I mean, I don't know how you would necessarily judge something like the live sex celebration, but it's like that is character.
Oh yeah, that's definitely in character.
That's probably like the peak of his character.
Yeah, and it's like I know some people that would be like, well, it's not character, it's more of a segment. And it's like, yeah, but that segment revolves around his character. And
I think at the peak of his Rated R Superstar character, he's a 10 out of 10. But there are elements that drag it down for me of certain characters that I just wasn't very into with Edge.
What knocked him down from the higher score for me in character, why I gave him an 8, was just more so the comparison to some other people. Because to me, Undertaker's a 10. And if I compare the two, it's like, all right, well, I can't give him a 10 too. But a 9 and an 8 from me, a 9 and an 8 from Rob, and an 8 and an 8 from Callum.
Yeah. I think that his mic work as a heel Rated R Superstar is great. But very early on in his career, he didn't have a lot of mic skills at all. And yeah, it's just a case of by the end of his career, he's a great mic worker, but there's a lot of stuff at the start which wasn't that special.
And let's move over to appearance. And these are kind of self-explanatory a little bit. One of them is physique. It's literally what the hell they look like. It's not much other than that, But sometimes it's good to distinguish the idea that, like, somebody like a Mark Henry isn't supposed to look like a bodybuilder in the same kind of way that Chris Masters is supposed to. So it's not like everybody has to have the same Randy Orton type of build, or, this guy's a little bit shorter than a Hulk Hogan, and that's a problem. Brock Lesnar looks like a beast, and Big Show's tall as all hell too, and there's a lot of positives when it comes to a Johnny Gargano, who's smaller. So I didn't think that physique-wise, Edge is really towards that top range. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, and he's fit, but he's not some 8 or 9 or 10 or something to me, especially when you look at like the Ultimate Warriors and the Shelton Benjamins and all the different types where they're either more sculpted or more muscular or more powerful looking or whatever. So I gave him a 6. He's above average. He's not somebody who's like, some out of shape, pudgy dude, but nothing really standing out. Entrance, I'll get into in a little bit, but let's go with physique for you guys. What do you think?
I gave him a 7, largely the same idea as you. He wasn't ever meant to be Hulk Hogan, but there were dips in his career where he looked more pudgy than at other points in his career, so give him a 7.
Yeah, I went 7 as well. I think that, like you guys, I just feel like he was never particularly muscular or defined, maybe like a little bit in the early 2000s, but especially towards the end of his career, he was just, just Edge, just a dad bod, really.
Yeah, that's perfect
And
word.
but he is like tall. He's clearly, in terms of like the facial thing, he's an attractive guy.
Yeah.
And or especially when he was in the like late 90s and early 2000s, he would get those classic women screaming whenever he took his shirt off or anything like that. That's kind of the indication that you're a good looking guy. I mean, I would never know in person, but like, I assume that has got to be the kind of. And also, he got to like bang Lita and Beth Phoenix, so he must be doing something right.
I mean, I think that his worst was probably when he came back at that Royal Rumble in 2010. Was it?
Yeah, he was definitely like out of ring shape and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
had the giant beard as well.
Yeah, that was some gross looking beard. Never been a big fan of giant beards like that to begin with, but yeah, didn't fit him. But Edge at his peak, higher. Edge at his lowest, then, mid range, but never really looked too out of shape. So I can't give him even like a 5 or lower. Yeah, I figured 6. Entrance is their entrance. I mean, their music, the pyro, what do they do during their entrance, that kind of thing. For that, I gave him an 8. Big fan of the theme. We're alluding to that at the beginning of this. I've always been a big fan of the smoke. I love the memes that have been going around recently, by the way, where people have been taking like any kind of footage of something with smoke and turning it into Edge. And even though this isn't something that he necessarily has any kind of input in or whatever, at least he didn't at first, but now he does. When they get Tony Chimmel to do the rated R Superstar, that's so fun, and I love that. I still can't give him a 10. It's tough, I know, because his entrance is very cool. He's very energetic. He's got cool pyro. And I'd be considering bumping him up to a 9. But right now I have him on for an 8.
I also have him on for an 8. I think at several points throughout his career, his entrance was always a strong point, whether it was going through the crowd, either by himself or with Christian, or when he broke out on his own with Rob Zombie's Never Gonna Stop. That was a good point in his career for entrance. And then he really nailed it when he got the Rare Superstar entrance down with the smoke and the pyro. And he had one of the best entrances in the industry for quite a while. But I couldn't give him a 10 per se, because that's like Undertaker territory. So I gave him an 8.
I've given him a 9 for his entrance. I think Edge has one of the most recognizable entrances in WWE history. The music, especially for his most recent one, the music's great. The pyro that goes on, especially my mind is immediately transported to the WrestleMania 24 entrance. Like that massive just wall of pyro that goes off during his entrance is incredible. He gets the pose down perfectly. The smoke comes out. The slide into the ring is great because he just nails that. Because it must be so easy. I mean, if Vince McMahon could tell you, it's so easy to separate both quads by sliding in the ring. So Edge has done that every single time, just nails it perfectly. But you can't forget all the other, like Rob says about him coming through the crowd, Christian. You can't forget the Brood's entrance as well.
Oof.
The Brood's entrance is one of the greatest entrances as well, with like the stable that came down. So obviously that's more Gangrel side of things. Edge had his part to play in that as well. And yeah, I think from the Rob Zombie stuff to the Metalingus, I think that's just I think it's pretty nailed on for me. I think 9 is. I can't bump it up to a 10 because I don't think he's had that one major, besides the WrestleMania 24 one, but that one major iconic entrance like the Undertaker or like a trying to think of someone else that would have like a 10 entrance, like maybe Bret Hart.
Yeah, that's thinking Bret as well.
But
the only 10s that I've given so far, I have I've been adjusting my scores a little bit here and there, and actually, by the way, that's a little bit of a thing to address right now. Why don't I just say it now? Since this is our 24th of these, I kind of figure we should do at some point this year, if we get the time, and we might actually have the time now that we might not do mailbags every month. I think that our 25th Superstar scores should be kind of a recalibration of the other ones. And we could go back and kind of like talk about different scores and all that. And I have them all kind of like, I keep adjusting things here and there. The only 10s that I have so far are Jericho and Goldberg, because we haven't done the Undertaker yet. I have my own score for the Undertaker on the side, but like I gave a 9 to Shawn Michaels. I think I gave a 9 to Triple H, maybe. But you know, you've sold me on this. I'm bumping him up to a 9 because I gave Ultimate Warrior an 8, and his is better than Warrior's. I think I got to adjust Warriors down a little bit now I'm thinking about it.
Well, then, if I'm more than happy to bump Edge up in almost any score, and Entrance definitely deserves it. So if Warrior is an 8 and that's the standard, I'll bump it up to a 9.
9s all around for Entrance.
Yep.
That's cool. What particularly sold me is I forgot about lumping in the Brood stuff, and I'm like, man, that was a really cool one. Gotta give him that.
I'm here to back Edge up.
Yeah. Let's go to behavior. Oh my god, all these ambulances in the background. That's great.
Scott Steiner's appearing, and this is the behavior section.
His entrance theme,
yeah.
working that in there. Apologies for the bad sound and all that, everybody. I'm still New York. No Edge running around the streets of New York that I've seen yet, though.
Huh.
Yeah,
he's
oddly enough.
Not there, and he's not driving his Durango.
So behavior is made up of backstage professionalism, which is essentially their locker room status. Are they a leader, or are they somebody who causes issues? Do they do the whole politics bullshit? Do they put people over? Do they screw people over? That kind of thing. And then there's public relations. You know, their outside appearance as a superstar. Do they make the company look good? Are they doing charity work? Are they doing talk shows? That kind of thing. Or are they on the bad side of things? Are they getting arrested? Are they causing issues? Are they saying a bunch of things that they need to apologize for later on? You know, are they a John Cena or a Lars Sullivan kind of thing? So backstage professionalism and public relations are pretty much the hardest ones to judge because we never really know 100%. You know, we're just kind of going by some stories here and there. And when I was looking into this, there's a little bit of a crossover between the two of them, and I know that some of that's a little bit confusing, but with the public relations, I had originally given him a 6 because I didn't really know, and I started to look into it. He had, a couple of years ago, I'm blanking on the time now, I don't have the page up, but he had been awarded some kind of a special charity thing for having done pretty much every type of charity possible. Like, he had done Make-A-Wish, he had done like a cancer research thing, and he did this like other specific thing. Like, he went out of his way to do a bunch of charity stuff and not actually make a big deal about it. And I think that that's worth an extra 2 points. So I gave him an 8 on public relations. He could very well be a 9 or a 10 for all I know, but it's just hard to judge. At the very least, we know he's not somebody who's like constantly getting into trouble or anything like that, so he's got to have a positive score. Backstage professionalism, I'm not entirely sure. I have a score for him right now, but you guys might know more about some of that stuff, so I don't know. I gave him a 7, but I'm very willing to sway around. What do you guys have?
Well, when you talk about Edge and you talk about backstage professionalism, there's an unwritten code which he broke on numerous occasions with a certain red-haired diva, which would probably knock him down a few notches.
Yeah, I mean, he can't be a 10 just from that alone.
No, but I don't know how far, because when you see Edge at the end of his career, with him surrounded by all those people in the ring, just showing just this huge amount of respect for the effort that he's putting into it, he's clearly well liked behind the scenes. He was clearly one of the respected locker room leaders. He was a big deal, and a lot of wrestlers, young and old, would look up to him. But then you bring in the idea of this Edge Matt Hardy love triangle situation. Like, while they're both injured, while Matt Hardy's out on the road working, this happens, with Edge married at the time as well. So essentially they were both cheating, so they're both as bad as each other in that regard. I feel like a 6 or a 7 maybe. I think maybe I might be leaning a bit more towards a 6.
I gave him a 7 because he's, like you said, he's very well respected, and by the end of everything, he was beloved, and also, relatively speaking, he and Matt made up rather quickly. But you can't ignore that for a brief period of time, that did cost Matt Hardy his job, and it's not the most professional thing to do. So it's not like I can't give him a 9, but I give him a 7.
But public
I'm just thinking now, you said it's not the most professional thing to do. It's like, what are they going to do? Change Lita's ring name to the most professional thing?
Jesus Christ.
Public relations side of things, I feel like if you take the affair thing as well, because I assume that would like play a role in the public relations side of him as well. You also take around the steroid allegations that he faced in the mid 2000s as well.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right.
Even though he's proclaimed that he's only ever taken steroids, it's a recovery from his neck injury. And said he got off them immediately, even though he was then found to be one of those people on that list that was being sent tons of stuff. But since then, he's like I say, he's got this big charity work behind him. He's like a WWE ambassador. He's clearly matured and grown up after a bit of a wild, I wouldn't say a wild child period, but a bit of like in his 20s, he was a bit all over the place. And now he's got an acting career behind him now. So I think for public relations, I'd probably go round about the 7 or 8 range, maybe a 7 for now.
For public relations, I gave him an 8. I think he, Tony enlightened me on the charity work. He's always been a good ambassador for the company. He's a well-spoken dude. He just got into a great movie with Frasier. I can't remember the actor's name at the moment, but he's got the acting thing going. And all things considered, he seems to be doing great. So I think an 8 is an appropriate score.
I'm trying to find that thing about the charity work, because I mean, positive things should be highlighted and all that. So let's see. This article says he was honored by Eblin Charities and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame / Dan Gable Museum with the Lou Thesz World Heavyweight Championship Award for his participation in pretty much every charitable thing a person can do. I don't know what that really constitutes, but a list of some of the things that he's been accredited with are appearances for Tribute to the Troops, of course, Be a Star, the I Have a Dream Foundation, WrestleMania Reading Program, Sports Celebrity Festival for Special Olympics, March of Dimes Canada, Make-A-Wish, Headlock on Hunger, Dreams Take Flight, and his own Thanksgiving charity called Turkey Tours for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So if he created his own charity, man, it's a positive,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's rad.
That's definitely something to keep in mind with that. Looks like, I mean, I can't find any real instances of him being like arrested for anything. Like he's not like, he had some kind of domestic abuse situation things, or DUI history or that kind of stuff. So
he's been divorced twice.
Yeah, but shit happens.
That's personal. Like,
even for the wellness policy, that's another thing that it's like we've seen so many different wellness policy hang-ups where it's like, Primo saying that he got suspended because they didn't get back to him about taking a test in Puerto Rico. So who really knows exactly? He could have been on something that could have been a big problem, or he could have been on something that he thought was legitimately just okay, and he didn't get like the right paperwork for it or something,
I think you head down a slippery slope when, like, if one person is seemingly innocent of it, to just start thinking that everyone else is innocent of that.
He might not be. I mean,
I'm trying to see. It says, according to a Sports Illustrated article rotated on August 30th, 2007, Copeland was named one of 10 wrestlers found to have purchased steroids and other drugs from an online pharmacy. Copeland was said to have received a load of things that somatoprin, genotropin, and stanozolol.
Don't we all have a little stanozolol drinks every once in a while?
We do.
Yeah. It was between September 2004 and February 2007. So if he was doing that stuff between that time,
he was injured for a lot of that, wasn't he?
No, that was
that's
before
when
he was injured.
That was actually one of the only
That was after he hit.
lengths of times that he was fully on the road.
Yeah. So I think
Also his most
there's
prosperous time, so there's something to be said there.
I think there's a likelihood that he would have been involved in that, but I don't think it doesn't carry the same sort of like black mark that, I don't know, like a domestic violence or a actual crime would be considered for.
Yeah, there's a big difference of I'm taking some stuff that maybe isn't exactly what the company wants me to take for public relations sort of side of things, and I'm going to try to help my neck versus, I stabbed someone.
Yeah.
We've gotten plenty of this.
And nobody
in the
really
past.
remembers it now anyway, so.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to bump my scores up to a 7 for Backstage Professionalism and an 8 for Public Relations.
That's what I got. What was yours again, Rob?
Mine is a 7 for Professionalism and an 8 for Public Relations.
Yeah, so we're very much in the same range here. We're going to have just a point or two off, it seems. Unless everything goes wild when it comes to crowd reaction, because that is made up of popularity and credibility. Popularity is their Twitter followers, their Facebook followers, their fan support, their merchandise, if we can get any kind of range of how well they sold the merchandise, the ratings when they were on screen, if we have any kind of information with that, the fact that the fans really like them, they really boo for them when they're a heel, they really cheer for them when they're either babyface or a heel, it doesn't really matter. Just essentially an overall perspective of how well liked they are. And their credibility is their kayfabe kind of side of things. Do they look as credible as like a Hulk Hogan type, or like a Brock Lesnar type, who are very much in that 9-10 sort of range? They win a lot, legends, Hall of Famers, multi-time world champion types, or are they more on the jobber side and losing quite a bit, like a Barry Horowitz or something like that? Popularity, very popular. I think we can all agree he's in that mid-upper range or so, but not quite the guy. So I gave him an 8. What do you guys have?
I also gave him an 8.
Yeah, 8 as well.
All right.
He was a very, very popular person during a time where there wasn't like a one guy type of thing, and even if that was the case, it was John Cena. It wasn't him.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of like there are certain people that you go for like the 10s and the 9s, and they're like people that are pretty much proven draws. I think Edge obviously does draw to an extent, but he never was at that peak level, like you said.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I mean, you can make an argument that he was the top heel for a brief period of time with John Cena and stuff like that, but I think for the amount of talent that was there when he was active, an 8 is a very good score.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about for an 8. It's 2 notches lower than the highest you could possibly get. You got a lot underneath you, so very, very good score for that. And credibility, I mean, the guy's like a God knows how many time champion.
11-time world champion.
I mean, like all the other titles that he's won too. Multi-time tag team champion, multi-time mid-card champion. He won practically everything that he could. I mean, let's try to see his championship history
I've
here.
got it listed here.
Royal Rumble, King of the Ring.
So,
I think everything but European and light heavyweight, correct?
So he's a 7-time World Heavyweight Champion, a 4-time WWE Champion, a 5-time Intercontinental Champion, a WCW United States Champion, a 14-time Tag Team Champion, a King of the Ring, a Royal Rumble winner, a Money in the Bank winner, main evented WrestleMania 24, and is a Grand Slam Champion and a Triple Crown Champion.
And 1, 2 slams.
So clearly it's 4.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah, it's 4 out of 10.
Yeah, that King of the Ring thing, that Money in the Bank thing, that Royal Rumble thing, those titles, all that, they don't amount to much. He's in that lower range. No, I mean, I still can't give him a 10.
Give him a 9. Because he's right there. Like, 11 times world champion, that's incredible when you consider the fact that really that was in a 5-year time span he won those titles. and he won everything. Anything that you could possibly want to do in WWE, he did it. So, yeah, he's about as high as you can get without being a 10.
No, he's a 10. I don't think you can make any argument that he's not a 10. Like I think they have him listed now. He's the most winningest title winner in WWE history.
Well, here's the argument, at least to play devil's advocate. When he won those titles, he won a lot of them through crooked means. Like, he didn't win as the strong guy who beats the crap out of everybody. And when he retained those titles, he retained them through help from other people and, like, the Vicky Guerrero connection and cheating, and he didn't have the longest title reigns to go along with a lot of those things too, you know, like winning Money in the Bank and then winning the title from John Cena and dropping it right back, that kind of thing. So he does have a lot on his record, but it's not like each one of those is a 1.5 year long title reign too.
Okay, I'll ask you this question then quickly. Is Stone Cold a 10 for credibility?
I don't think so.
I'm just wondering.
So
like,
who would be a 10? Well, let's establish
who's a 10
Who's
for credibility? Well, a 10 for credibility for me is Brock Lesnar is a 10 for credibility.
So
Goldberg's a 10 for credibility.
Yeah, so I gave Goldberg a 10. I gave Lesnar a 10. I gave Triple H a 10. And those are the only 10s I've given out so far as the ones we've done. Now, everyone that I've written up, I've given close to a 10 or a 10.
Hold on. If Triple H is a 10, then I think an argument can be made that Edge is a 10. Because he also won a lot of those championships through nefarious means.
So, for context, I gave... of course, these are going to have to be adjusted potentially in the future. Who knows? I gave Michaels a 9. Huh.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I gave Warrior an 8. I gave AJ Lee... No, AJ Lee is an 8. Roman Reigns as of February 2015. That was a weird one. Why did we do that? He's an 8. Of course, he's got to go up a little bit higher since then. I gave a 9 to Jericho, an 8 to Bryan, an 8 to Del Rio. So at the very least, he's got to be an 8. Because if I gave an 8 to Del Rio, then Edge is fucking better than that. Gave an 8 to Paige. So yeah, it's got to be an 8 or 9 or a 10 for sure, obviously. But I don't know if I'd give him a 10. I think I'd lean more towards a 9 rather than an 8.
I still don't see how he could have done any more to win anything else.
Well, Callum, maybe if he was a hardcore champion too, like then he could be a 10. But no, I think Callum's right. I'm gonna give him a 10.
2 10s and a 9. I mean, shit, that's damn near perfect, you know? So, our final scores here, I just tallied my thing up, and I've got an 80 out of 100, which doesn't sound like it's all that great, but for context, again, just to, compare to some of the other people and stuff, there's only 3 people so far that we've done out of these 24 editions that I have ranked higher than him. And those are Chris Jericho, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels.
I have an 83. And I think that's the highest score that I've given on any of the ones that I've been a part of so far.
I've got him at an 81. So, yeah, pretty much in that sort of range. And I think that's the highest I've given besides Chris Jericho. I think Chris Jericho is the highest one I've given. As far as I'm aware, I think I gave him an 85. Something like that. So, Edge is next up there, because I was involved in the Michaels and Triple H one.
So it's 80, 83, and 81, which means our average score for him is 81.3 repeating, which is hell of a score, So,
that's great.
Again, he's, there's only a couple people that I have higher than him, and that's because those people are Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. It's like, it's not like he's got a higher score, a lower score than Santino Marella or Hardcore Holly or something like that. High score for a reason. Edge is awesome.
Yeah, I hope he comes back. I hope he does the one-off. The more I think about the way he ended his career, the more I'm like, yeah, he could do one more.
Interesting if that benefits or lessens his superstar scores ranking. If he does make a comeback.
Kind of depends. If he does a great job, boosts it. If he does a terrible job, well, give him a little bit of leeway. Unless he does like horrible public relations stuff in the process, he comes in the ring and he's like
Benoit's at some point. Then
that
changes everything.
Then it just becomes like, ooh, okay. In retrospect, this guy's got a 0 or something, But
yeah,
I'm assuming that nothing crazy happens like that, and he'll probably stay around this range, this 81 or so range. But that's for our scores at the very least. Who knows what you guys are doing? And maybe you might think that we're crazy, that we're not giving them 10s on a lot of things. Or maybe you actually hate Edge. I don't know why you would, but maybe you're the type of person who's like, he should have a 3 for this or something, Who knows? Drop your comments below. Tell us your thoughts on our scores and your scores as well. Very quickly, just to toss a couple more plugs out there. Again, this was sponsored by Marco on the Patreon. So thank you for Marco's donation for that. And if you want to take advantage of that, do so in the future and pick your poison for, whether you want us to do like an fan announce table. I always want to call it an announce table. Fan announce table, or you want us to do some kind of like a call the spot, or maybe bring back something like heel or face, or do some kind of things kind of like how Guest 5 had asked. Wow, I still really said asked. Fucking English teacher. Had asked for the Time Machine Dream Team in the past. We did a second one of those. And who knows what we're going to be doing next. So, yeah, pick your poison is interesting. And as long as you guys are doing that, we will keep doing them. That same thing applies to fanboysanonymous.com. So if you want more from the geek culture spectrum, then check out that and donate to that Patreon, whether it's $1 or $5 or anything else you got for the spare change that you want to toss our way. And if you want to check out the merchandise shops, check out TeePublic and Redbubble. There are 3 shops for piece for each. It's A Mango Tees, Fanboys Anonymous, and for Smark Out Moment as well. And I think that's pretty much all the plugs that I need to toss out. But these guys have other things that they've got going on, so make sure you follow them on their stuff and check out what they've got. Callum?
I haven't really actually got that much going on now that 2001 is over, but you can obviously go back and listen to all the 2001 Wrestling Odyssey episodes on the Smark Out Moment channel. But you can check out all the obviously weekly articles on smarkoutmoment.com, including the power rankings, which is my weekly contribution. You can follow me on Twitter at weekmeister14, and if you haven't already, listen to the Wrestle Kingdom predictions, and we'll be back at the weekend with the post shows for those.
Yeah, so you got some stuff to plug. Don't be so modest. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You can check out everything I'm doing at WrestleZone.com. Check out Fightful.com during the weekend, as for all the Wrestle Kingdom stuff, I will be covering that. And I'm looking forward to coming back here with Callum over the weekend and talking some New Japan.
And also go to smarkoutmoment.com and check out some of these little things that I've been posting at the beginning of the year that might get lost in the shuffle of all the pay-per-view stuff and whatever. I started the first tier list ranking for the AEW roster. I know some people are interested in who do I like the best and who do I not like the best out of that roster, and you can check that out and tell me what your thoughts are for the whole tier list concept in general. And I've got a whole breakdown of some different things that are coming in 2020. It kind of explains the differences between the mailbags that we're going to be doing. It explains the Dark Cast on the Patreon, the concept of a heel and face turn podcast, possibly, if you guys are really into that, and how we're going to do the the Sexiest Superstars tournament this next year, because that's going to change a little bit, and Champsgiving, and some other kind of different things here and there. So, just kind of browse around and see what we've got already up there and what we've got coming in the future. You'll see when we have that up in the future. And the very next thing that we're going to be doing for our main event for the next week is going to be taking our predictions for NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2 and running down that card the way that we do pretty much everything else. Then we'll follow through the rest of the month and go along with the whole Royal Rumble trend and kind of piggyback off of that a little bit. And the next thing you know, we're going to get into pay-per-view in the way that we normally do that kind of stuff. But all that stuff's coming your way when it is. So just follow Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. Check out the website, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and do all that kind of stuff. And we will see you when we see you. Thank you again for listening to this. Thank you again to Marco for inspiring all of this. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.